Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to Post-Match Raw for the Community Shield. I'm not calling it pre-season now. It's Post-Match Raw because we won and it counts. But I am joined by the usual host of Post-Match Raw, and someone doing me a big favour for this because nobody else could be asked, is Trev. How are you doing, Trev?
I'm good, man, and yes, you're dead right. It is, of course, now a title, as Pep Guardiola would say. This is a title, which, of course, will damage the well-being of both Manchester clubs, because obviously the other two relied, the other lot across relied very much on Charity Shields for their trophy haul and total as well. So yeah, it's good stuff. Nigel is saying I'm very quiet. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay, guy?
You're fine, my end.
Okay, good stuff. Yeah, a belter, man, a belter of a game of football. As I suppose we should have guessed it would be when there's two solid teams from these two clubs out, but I didn't expect it to be this good. Anyone who's listening to stuff that I had to say on various shows over the week would have known that I had a little bit of apprehension, not because, I give a shit about the game itself or the inverted commas title, but because I didn't want any psychological edge to go to Manchester City. And well, it certainly hasn't, and that to me is significant, and that's why far more than any shiny pot or anything that goes on the champions wall or whatever, this is psychological edge. Every little thing we need to leverage the fuck out of it, and we are going to do that now. And we've got the big one in terms of the centre forward bragging rights. So it's I've really enjoyed that, man. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think we discussed on AIP, didn't we? The pre-season feel was strong with this one, but I think once you get started watching, it certainly feels more than a pre-season game. Like, it wouldn't have. I don't think it would have ruined my day if we lost, like normal games would. But I was celebrating the goals, whereas in pre-season you're just like, yay. So yeah, it's very different, I think. But it's not quite a real game. But as you said, we can add it to the trophy haul, so the treble is on. But we'll start as we usually do with the starting 11s, and Flash Scorer's got Man City in red for some reason. But I'll go with the Liverpool team first. Adrian in goal, obviously. Trent, Matip, Van Dijk, Robertson, Henderson, Fabinho, Thiago, Mo, Bobby and Diaz. And just for comparison, we have the City team. Edison, Walker, Diaz, Aki, Cancelo, number 7. Number 7 Cancelo, which we'll come back to. So that's a fucking travesty. Kevin De Bruyne, Rodri, Bernardo Silva, Jack Grealish, Haaland and Mahrez. Now, Trev, I think this is kind of the team we expected, maybe Ibu for Matip, etc. But I think the more interesting things if we look at the benches, because as we've been getting closer to the season, everyone's been doing the previews and saying who will win the league. Liverpool obviously finished 5th because that seems to be the crack nowadays. But if you look at the benches, I mean, we've got Carvalho. Harvey Davis is the backup keeper because we've got a couple injured. Harvey Elliott, Gomez, Curtis Jones, Naby Konate, James Milner and Nunes. They've got Julian Alvarez, who looked quite good when he came on, to be fair. Foden, Gundogan, Mbete, Ortega, who's the new backup goalkeeper. Palmer, who's a youngster. Phillips, Stones and another youngster with a double-barreled surname. But they're only missing Laporte, who's a centre-back. Whereas you look at the strength of our bench, which I'd say is probably quite a bit stronger than theirs, but we're also missing Alisson, Jota, Kelleher, Ox, and Tsimikas. So I feel like our squad going into the season is maybe underrated in terms of strength. I think the first 11s are obviously debatable, but in terms of the squad, I think that kind of sums up ours as a bit stronger, isn't it?
I think so. If you sort of maybe do a compare and contrast with, I know Pep was trying to big up the fact that the Wilson Esbrand kid was a potential, cover at left back, but we know they're going to get Cucurella in, and that's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Whatever deal they're going to do. So you compare him straight off the bat to Harvey Davies in terms of likelihood of getting minutes, I would imagine. But again, as you say there's Cole Palmer and Luke Mbete, who are names that most people won't be familiar with. And then how highly do you rate the new boy Calvin Phillips? John Stones, Gundogan is obviously excellent. And Ortega and Alvarez and Foden make up a bench that's fairly solid, of course, but not just as terrifying as you might think. And of course, I think the outgoings that they've had, I still think they're going to do a bit of splurging before the window's over, because that to me does not look like a strong enough squad considering their position in the game and the money that they've got. Our bench, by comparison, especially in the afterglow of what Darwin did when he came in. Little bits of Fabio looking really good today. Looks really solid. Harvey Elliott, we all have high hopes for again this season. Curtis Jones, oft discussed on the AI podcast. We won't do that again today. But with Naby, Jimmy Milner, who's your utility tool, Ibu Kanate and Joe Gomez. I mean, that's a solid bench. Again, there's a real obvious thing that we can say, and I don't know what you want to do here, man. We can maybe just address it at the top and lance all these boils that need to be addressed, because people are going to want to talk about Henderson in that opening 11 for Liverpool. People are going to want to talk about the fact that it's an issue there, and the only other thing that you could possibly, I think, raise an eyebrow at is, how did Bobby do? Is Bobby a viable starter all the time now? And him versus Nunes, and that's a law of the jungle thing. That'll work itself out in terms of the form. So, I mean, I'm very reluctant. I don't know what you think, man, especially in a Charity Shield game, especially before the season even starts. I'm very reluctant to be hacking out all these trotting out all these old arguments, especially on a day like today when we should be just having the crack. It's a pre-season friendly, a glorified one that ends in a little bit of psychological blow against the enemy for us. So I'm going to be leaning into that in this show.
Yeah, I think it is a bit of fun. I think there's other podcasts. I think I did note a few times Henderson was possibly drunk, but I'm not going to slag him off. He got tackled by the ground at one point, which needs discussing, but it's not one of the shittest player, etc. So yeah, but yeah, there's always going to be them discussions, and you'll probably have one for Fulham next weekend. But we'll get through the game. Basically, the first 15 minutes, I was eating my tea, so my notes are a bit scarred. But how it goes. I had a nice chicken tikka wrap, people. That's what I was doing.
Beautiful.
Yes, my first note was Mo started on fire, and Henderson was a bit drunk. That sounds about right to you, Trev?
I'll go with that. I mean, we did have those early attempts by Thiago, Diaz, Mo, one after the other. All the first two shots blocked. Mo's shot was saved after he cut in and ran. Good balls by Thiago to Robbo and consecutive poor balls by Thiago to both Robbo and Trent. I noticed that in 6 minutes. And after that, Thiago just had the game on strings. He was outrageous today. Just extras. Well. Absolutely. Just all the extra sauce on Thiago's performance today. What I loved about it, and I am absolutely grasping the wood of the table as I say this, he looked robust. He looked fit. We all know he's brilliant in the aerial battles, but he was really strong in the tackle as well. And you add that to the ability to sort of dictate tempo and drive fantastic passes. But yeah, I mean, in that opening period as well, I think De Bruyne had a shot that was fairly well blocked by Virgil. And the first kind of fuck's sake Hendo moment happens about 11 minutes. It's a lovely flowing move that ends up with a bit of a poor ball. And unfortunately, that is a feature as we go through the game. There are a few moves that end with kind of you're asking yourself, what was that? And that's just a fact. Now, an awful lot of people will see retribution in the through ball to to Darwin, which was saved by Henderson's face later on. But I will say on that, just before, just to anticipate before we get, a certain lad who does this show with us was already saying that the pass should have been better and it would have been a goal. So credit where it's due. Yeah, but in that opening period, I agree with you. I think like 13 minutes, there's a Robbo back post header into the side rigging. You know, Robbo, if Robbo could finish, you know, he'd be player of the year every year. 50, absolutely. And again, just other bits and pieces, just leading up to the goal, and I'll let you talk about that just to fill in for you, man. I thought there was some great foot-in stuff from both sides in that kind of 15-minute mark. Like, it was unbelievable. There was nearly a full minute of football where it was one team outdoing the other in terms of getting a foot in or being first to the ball or reading what was coming next. It was like, oh my God, the rest of the Premier League must be looking at that and going, we're fucked. You know, we don't have a chance here. Like, I mean, the tempo, the standard, the press was just so high. And then we had about 19 minutes, Robbo and Diaz, Rodri, Diaz and Ederson all combining to deflect the Henderson cross away from from getting to Diaz, but then before you know it, we're 1-up. So if you want to take it from there, I guess.
Yes, and my note, as I quote, "Fucking get in, Trent from the edge of the box." Actually, it took a deflection of back.
Now I've seen that a couple of times, and I couldn't see how significant it was. Guy, what did you think?
It looks like it just lifted it slightly because I think Ederson may have saved it, but it is Ederson after all, who's a bit Adrian at times. But to be fair, Adrian was quite good to do. But yeah, I think it may have went in. But I think it just confirmed it nestling into the top corner beautifully. But it's definitely a Trent goal. It's not one goal.
And the move itself, man, is fantastic. That, like, Trent starts it with that lefty crossfield ball to Diaz to Thiago. Thiago's ball into Mo Salah's gorgeous, and he just basically lays it off. And that finish by Trent is like, it's so deliberate. Mm-hmm. I think the deflection's minimal, so it's almost picture book if it wasn't for Aki's noggin having something to do with it. But I don't know how much it deflected the ball. I don't know whether that keeper is getting to it or not, to be perfectly honest with you. But that lovely sweeping right to left finish, I mean, I could watch those all day.
It is beautiful, and maybe Trent's figured out, I wasn't very good at shooting, I'll just cross the ball into the goal.
Yeah, I would like to think that, man, because look, we've all seen the photos of Trent going around with all the various sensors attached to his brain. We do know that this guy is sort of levels above as a footballer, and if it wasn't for Martin Tyler today, nobody would have mentioned anything to do with anything negative. They wouldn't have brought up the stupid narrative about his poor defensive work, because that's bullshit, as we know. And every time I see those photos, I just keep thinking, you know what, this lad, because he is levels up, he has room. There's still ceiling there, is my point, and that should terrify the shit out of everybody else. Thinking about Trent Alexander-Arnold getting better, I mean, that's exciting.
If his defensive work, well, to be fair, it's not even his defensive work. If he ever has to defend normally for a right back, I mean, people will just be proved wrong, because he has to play midfield and as a winger and as a 10 and a right back. So there's no other right back who has his workload in a game, and people criticise that. It's fucking moronic. But if his defensive work actually does ever matches attacking output, he will probably be going down as the best player in history. So yeah, hopefully that happens. Yeah, it's just odd, and I'm sad to hear you had Martin Tyler. I don't like Sam Matterface, and I think we had Karen Carney, but it's better than Martin Tyler. So apologies for that, Trev.
Yeah, that's going to be coming back later on, man. Don't worry. I do have at least one Martin Tyler rant, but we'll save that for whenever we think we're flagging a bit on the match stuff.
Oh, beautiful. But after the goal, Man City kind of come back into it. I think Mahrez, KDB has a chance actually from a Mahrez through ball. Then it's a bit back and forth again. We have a chance on the break. I think Henderson passes it behind or slightly under Diaz's feet, which kind of a story of... I thought, well, we always do have to discuss Henderson. I thought he was good off the ball and he was kind of tragic on the ball. I'm not overly arsed. We won, but hopefully he gets better on the ball. But it's a pre-season game, so I'm not overly arsed, and I'm not going to stick on it. Next note, Henderson definitely drunk. Offside chance for City. Adrian saves it anyway. Trent's now drunk because he's gone walkies. A couple City chances, and Haaland fluffed both. Yeah, on the ITV coverage, they were really desperate for Haaland to score. It probably was the same on yours because, yeah, they do that. We talked about him on AIP a bit, and also basically the intrigue around this game was it'll be a bit of fun, but we also wanted to see Haaland up close and personal. Obviously, Carl's there, repping our pod there. What did you make of him? Because we saw De Bruyne was playing very high, doing most of the off-ball work. He dropped deep a couple of times to grab the ball, and he looked kind of wrong, but he missed them chances in the first half, and he looks... How was I going to word this? He looks like more of a project than, say, Darwin does for us. That's probably how I'd word it.
Yeah, and I would have thought, being perfectly honest, it would have been the exact opposite. My thinking going into this would have been, my natural reaction would have been, I think it's going to be the exact opposite. I think Darwin will be the project, and Haaland's going to hit the ground running. And I think everybody feared that. And the first time there was any potential link with that player for us or anybody else coming to the Premier League, it was kind of, yeah, he's kind of going to be made for this, as Nick refers to him, a tremendous Nordic meat shield. And he like there's I'm not going to fall into the silly trap of dissing him in any way, shape or form. They're finding their feet, as Martin Tyler was eager to tell us. They've played less games than us already, and you have to cut a bit of slack there. He's a different presence up top for them as well. You would say that perhaps, like he had the ball in the net on one occasion when the ball had gone over the dead ball line in the second half, and you would say that he should have done better in that kind of double opportunity you were talking about, for sure. The second one was piss poor, but Adrian did okay on the first. I think it would be a very careless man or woman who wrote Erling Haaland off at this point based on what we would be dismissing it as a friendly if we had lost it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. He still worries the shit out of me. To be fair,
yeah.
And let's be fair, he's playing against Virgil van Dijk, and well, I didn't note Joel Matip down, but Matip was fucking unbelievable today. He even headed the ball onto his hand whilst he was on the floor.
I think credit where it's due, Guy. There was some really good defensive work by us, and I know there was a lot of talk about Joe Gomez. I didn't watch any preseason games apart from this. So I know there was some wincing about Joe Gomez, but I have to say, right, whether it was Thiago covering, whether it was Fab doing bits in his inimitable style in that area, whether it was Virgil looking imperious, or Joel, I thought excellent going forward and defensively. He won 1v1, I think, with De Bruyne in the second half, and it's just tremendous. So I thought that side of our game looked really good. They don't get that goal, if we're being perfectly honest, that they get if it's Ali. They just don't, because he's not letting that thing go. And okay, and probably as good a time as any to pause and talk about to pause and talk about Paul Son, because he was. Somebody was saying, like, what's worse, his hair or his outfit or something like that. I was saying his eyesight, because he just. Yeah, he doesn't see the same things that everyone else sees, and look, we'll get to it. But the handball decision and the fact that it took so long, it was kind of farcical. You'd be embarrassed for everyone concerned. But I thought, it ends with the first half ends with us on the up after they had gotten a good toehold. The first half started with us on the up, and then they got that little period of 15 minutes, 20 minutes. But we got back into it just as the half was ending. Overall, I would have said on far more than on points. When you look at the stats at the end, because they start racking up the opportunities, or at least shots, attempts, The stats favour City overall in the match, but in that first half, I think it was us, not comfortably, but certainly by a good head or a good nose.
Yeah, I think we were more dominant, but maybe without the chances, and I think they just kind of allowed it without maybe the Haaland chances aside. I think we were certainly the better team. The second half was a bit more up and down, but we scored more in the second half. So, hey ho. Yeah, Craig Pawson's shite. That was literally my next note anyway. Might as well do it now because the second half's a bit busier. But a left back being number 7, Trev, is that haunts me to my core. I won't lie.
I'm just guessing here now, right? But I'm guessing the natural people who would have been in line for that 7 shirt would have been De Bruyne, and he has his own probably superstitious number that he likes to wear. It's that stat. He's 17, and then you would have thought Foden at 47 would be a natural heir to the 7th throne, right? Because he's going to want to think of himself as a first team footballer, and I think they do. So that's weird that it wasn't one of those. They were certainly that it wasn't Foden that got it. And then what does that tell us about Cancelo? It kind of tells us quite a bit, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know, like, or does it?
His hero is quite clearly James Milner. That's what we know.
Let's go with that. I like that. Let's go with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Was he? I think Milner was 7 for Man City as well. I might be wrong in there. But yeah, it's quite clearly his hero. Yeah, God, I'm one of the. Whenever I do FIFA or Football Manager, it's 1 to 11. It just is. So on I don't know if you ever play FM anymore, Trev, but on FM, some of the players have the favourite number, and it's just like, fuck off. You 1 to 11. So yeah, it's none of that shite for me.
As a man who has serious organisational control and borderline OCD issues, I can only relate completely to this little take of yours, Guy. I'm fully supportive here, man.
If Trent ever falls off as a footballer, that's the first thing I'm coming for is number 66, because that shit, I'll let it off. I'll let it off because he's good for fucking hell. Deary me, I can't deal with it. But anywho, we're at half time. City have a chance. Mahrez runs off the back of Robbo. Robertson still hasn't. I know it's a pre-season game, but he had that quirk last season of being the deepest on the offside line. You might want to fix that before the season starts. My next note is: do you reckon Grealish should be a better player if he tried standing up every now and again?
I really don't know what's going on with this because obviously Big Martin Tyler wanted to talk about how he's top of the most fouled players list and all that, and most people with their Grealish commentary are stuck in the season that he had for Aston Villa where he's quite impressive. But I'm sorry, he is like. Whether the fact that he has talent is not up for debate. The fact that he can't apply that talent in a Manchester City side in a way that's effective and consistent, that's not up for debate. Now, it may happen this season. It may. He may find his form if he's granted the opportunity by Guardiola. But there's the question. I think now maybe if he doesn't sign another attacker, which I still have a feeling he will. I think perhaps Grealish will get a chance to play continuously, and that may lead to the form, which will lead to him becoming a successful City player. I mean, successful in terms of his form. Mm-hmm. But if he does, if there is another sign, if there is another attacker, but it could be exactly the same rinse and repeat season for this guy because. I don't know what it is. Like she's great, maybe a little bit of a flat track bully, but when he comes up against really good defenders, he doesn't have it. He doesn't. Well, he hasn't had it for City anyway, and it'll be interesting to watch that develop. I think that's an interesting one. Whether they recruit or don't may have a bearing on whether he gets a chance to, become that consistent performer.
And the thing is, Bernardo Silva's still linked with Barcelona, so if he goes, there's going to be more midfield opportunities for him as well. If Bernardo Silva goes, they'll probably have hundreds of millions to spend in the last few weeks of the transfer window. But
exactly.
I think Bernardo Silva going would impact the title race more than any signing Liverpool could make, so that'd be fucking glorious for me. I'm all for him leaving if that is true, but Barcelona do only have monopoly money, so we will see. Next note, Hendo's drunk again, yep, etc. Subs come on, Mahrez and Grealish go off for them, Foden and Alvarez come on, and Darwin comes on for Bobby. For us, a few minutes later, we have a penalty shout, but it is clearly offside. Henderson back post cross to no one. Darwin misses a 1v1, good pass by Henderson. Before we get into the
that one guy just to cut in, because you did mention it, and we'll just have this as the solitary Hendo moment. This is the one where it was in 61 minutes. He got the ball. There were, I think, 3 people ahead of him, and it's not really a back post cross. It's a kind of because he's too central. Yeah, he's too central for that. It's like a straight dink just to nobody over the dead ball line. You're thinking, oh man, I mean, I don't know. And again, look, it's still, as we're often reminded, and Klopp told us again today, it's still pre-season for everybody. Maybe those sort of, as you said, you gotta allow that maybe the on the ball stuff will improve. But it's frustrating because if there's somebody sliding in these balls, we have Diaz making clever runs. We've got if Bobby's ahead of him, we've got Darwin ahead of him, we've got Mo ahead of him, and these are intelligent runs, and not to mention fullbacks bombing into these spaces as well and on ahead. So you do need that subtlety of passing. It is an option, of course, but it's not an option if you want to win the quintuple, which is now on, as we know.
Yeah, absolutely, and we count in our Singapore trophy as well. I think we have to.
Oh, great! The sextuple.
Yeah,
let's go
absolutely. Let's go. Yeah, as I said with Henderson earlier, I thought he was actually really good off the ball. I think sometimes he didn't track Trent to his best abilities, but his pressing was really good and his movement was quite all right. It's just the passing was funny. It wasn't even bad. It was just funny at times. But we won't get bogged down. Hopefully, he has a better game against Fulham. On the ball. Darwin missing that 1v1. To be fair, Ederson does quite well, saves it with his head. But
it is a good through ball, but it is a good through ball by Henderson. It's just a good pass by Henderson. I mean, obviously, maybe you'd like it to have been weighted differently, but it's a good fecking ball. And Darwin does well; he gets there. And Ederson's a very, very good goalkeeper. I mean, it's not a coincidence that he's always in the conversation as to who's the best between him and Ali, because he does lots of good things, and his anticipation's one of those. He's always quick out. He's as quick out as Ali is, and you got to give credit where it's due on an occasion like that. Later on, we have that sort of validation for Darwin of getting his goal, so that puts that to bed. But just by way of wanting to balance it up, a few of the things you've said, I think it's a perfectly good pass through to him, and. Just for the sake of leveling it up, but as you know,
I did say in one of my WhatsApps we wasted his one good pass, for fuck's sake.
yeah, I think that's why I have the fear.
It feels harsh, but it's funny now that we won.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. Now there's so much of that now. We can look back and have a bit of a giggle, but there'd be a little bit more angst and annoyance in the show and in the comments if it hadn't been for the fact that we beat Manchester City. And you'll know I'm not saying that we won the Charity Shield. I'm saying that we beat Manchester City in a game at the start of the season. I like that. But of course, they do get their goal on 70 minutes, which is where we're at now. So we might as well get into that, because look, I'd like you to tell me about it for what you think, because I watched it numerous times and just found it really, really annoying. It's Alvarez who puts it in the end, but it looks like there's a ball into Foden. I can't remember who that is because I was too annoyed to look at too many of the replays. His sort of volleyed effort is saved, isn't that right, by Adrian, who gets up and starts scrambling at Foden's feet as he's coming in for the rebound, and then that breaks to Alvarez, who sweeps it home. Is that a fair interpretation of what happens?
Yeah, I can't remember who passed to Foden either, but I'm going to assume it was Cancelo because he's probably their best player. But yeah, I mean, do you know the rules of football anymore, Trev?
Well, here's the thing, and we might as well skip on at this stage to Martin Tyler, because
Beautiful.
him and his pal were talking about later on how Darwin's header from Mo's cross was led to what you might call a modern handball. I don't know what that is. That's just shit talk. It was him and a guy who used to play for Stuart. I think it was Stuart Robson. He used to play for Arsenal. And the two of them were talking about, it's a modern, in our day, that wouldn't have been given. It's a fucking deliberate handball. So here, it looks to me, because it was the situation that our keeper has two hands on the ball and he is challenged when he has two hands on the ball. Now, I was under the impression that was a foul and that would be given. I presume this is what you're talking about here when you say you don't know what the rules are anymore.
Yeah,
and maybe,
absolutely.
I guess he doesn't have a paw either side of it in a firm hold, but he does clearly have two hands on the ball at one point before the decisive intervention by their player. So, yeah, man, it's daft. It wasn't about the offside decision. That didn't even look close, even in the first thing. It was about the interaction between Foden and the keeper, and to me, that's another pass and error, and VAR should have picked it up, and they don't.
Well, that's the thing. I think almost the referee getting the offside very wrong, because I don't even think it was close. It certainly wasn't an obvious offside. It was just very early flag from him. I think it almost put pressure on to find a reason to let the goal go. It's just odd. It's just a collection of errors from both the referee and the assistant. And then, yeah, I think there was an incident last season where Kasper Schmeichel, he had one hand on the ball and the ball was on the floor. And I think it was against Villa, because there was loads of Villa fans on Twitter moaning about it. And rightfully so, because the rule's fucking stupid. And I'm presuming Villa attacker got the ball from underneath him, where he only has one hand pressuring down. And then the goal got disallowed. But he clearly has two hands on the ball. It just seems odd. And that's probably the main thing to take away from this game more than anything. The standard of refereeing still shite. And we've got rid of Mike Dean. Who else we got rid of?
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. But oh yeah, and of course who's our other chubby lad who's gone? The lad I used to love describing in various different ways.
Oh, Moss.
Oh my,
Moss.
Johnny Moss is gone as well. So, but like, I mean, I don't know. The thing is, yeah, poor referees, but we also have to remember that this thing that we have is supposed to be a fail-safe. So if it's going to come down to the interpretation of whatever referee is in there, again, you're still talking about the standard of refereeing. That needs to be remembered. If they're the person making the call with the use of the technology that's available, like people get really pissy and say, it's not VAR's problem. VAR didn't give it. Somebody interpreting the technology did. Stop being a robot shagger and get the point that's being made here. The point is, if it's somebody making a human error or making their interpretation based on the technology is not worth a shit. Or it's certainly worth sod all if you can't interpret the frickin' thing properly. And we have seen that endlessly last season. We seem to be involved in an awful lot of decisions around that. Here we are again already. We go straight to another one. We might as well talk about that now, because it's only a couple of minutes later. Yeah, we get on Milner and Harvey Elliott on the pitch, and there is a Bernardo Silva cross that goes narrowly over top, and Adrian's head's a bit gone. He's slicing the clearances and stuff. But on 79 minutes, there is this next one, and like I said, it's a cross. It's a headed ball across. The hand goes out deliberately, and it stops the flight of the ball. I don't understand how you can refer to that as a modern handball. I don't understand what that means. That's just shit talk. And of course, when the penalty is eventually awarded, after needlessly ages of time and analysis, Tyler talks about how, remember Schmeichel saved from Mo Salah on this very ground last season, and remember the minute Mo had scored the goal, He says, remember all those 2-2 draws between these clubs last season? I swear to God, this is the type of thing. It's a sickness with the guy. And I keep bringing it up because most people are listening to that. I understand that you might not be, but most people are. It's going to be the dominant commentary that's being heard by people. And it affects the narrative, and it affects the newspaper headlines, and it affects the way that people perceive the game. And that just makes it uncomfortable for us because we have to listen to the shit talk. That's how shit like Trent can't defend gets started, guy. You know what I mean? Yeah, and now they want to talk about a modern handball. Fucking hell!
It's not like his hand was by his side and it's a bit. His hand's literally above his head or in line with his head. It's stopping a shot on goal. It's nestling bottom corner. He's basically saved it. It's
just silly. It's just silly, man.
I just remember I remembered we're on BT next week, so it kind of makes me happy. But then I remembered BT shite as well.
Well, I mean, like if you're talking about the step up to Fletch, it's okay. But we do get to finish on a high note, right? I don't know. Is there anything else in the match left that you want to chat about? Let me just.
Man City's kit's fucking horrible.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. Yeah. Because by the way, our kit looks fucking class.
It does, doesn't it?
It looks class. And that, like I say, that's the first match I've watched pre-season. I love it. I love the look of it. The lads always make it look class, but make anything look class. But this, I'm all in on this kit. This is the feel of a potentially successful kit for me. But I'm glad you mentioned that.
Have you seen our white kit yet in full floor?
I haven't seen it. No, I haven't seen it live. This is the one with all the various lines across it that make it a little bit fit-inducing. Is that the one? No?
Yes, that's the one. It smells of relegation to me. So, yeah. on balance of kit, we're finishing 10th, I think. Here.
Well, I'll make a call on that when I get to see that one live as well. But do remember. Sorry,
if the third kit's good, we might win the league still, so it's fine.
Exactly. Yeah. We can still do this.
What were you going to say?
I was gonna. That's what I was gonna say. Is like apart from, I mean, Darwin heads over from a Jimbo cross on 86 minutes. Naby has a shot just before that. Really kind of a tame effort in 85. Robbo makes that break on 86. We're actually killing them at this point. 85, 86, 87. Robbo does that run where he's got Mo and Harvey inside him and he balloons it over.
He should be fine for shooting. Should be fine.
and on 89 minutes we bring on Carvalho for Diaz, and my stream crapped out. So this is all you, dude, talking about Darwin's goal.
Yeah, it's the cherry on top of the icing on top of the cake, really. I can't remember. No, it's more who does a patent pending Henderson back post cross to Robbo, who does a nice little header back inwards to Darwin. Nice header, top off. And that's not Darwin. That's me as well. Yeah, it's really good to see, because I think when all the other fans of other teams are making fail comps and stuff like that, and then the icing on top of the cherry on top of the icing on top of the cake is when Haaland did the funny miss afterwards. So yeah.
So what stage was that at, guy? Because again, like I say, the whole last 7 minutes of stupid added on time I missed. So what was?
I have the goal as 93 minutes or the 93rd minute. Then I forgot to do times. So Jones came on for more, which I think was literally in the celebrations. Then my next note is LOL. L Haaland lol. So yeah, I'm guessing, because I think it was 97 minutes played, so I'm guessing it was quite late on, because I think basically everyone was just done laughing by that point. So yeah, it's great to see, because Darwin's been the story of our pre-season by the outside world. It is funny that Haaland, the surest thing in football, comes off looking a bit of a dickhead.
Well, just to come full circle on my first thought, and my thought all the way during the week on all the shows about this is, again, if there's any psychological advantage to be gained, you happily grab it with both hands. And, after Darwin doing what he did and showing off his, not quite Mo Canyon level abs, but very impressive looking things indeed. God bless him.
Human being level abs.
Yeah, exactly. But like when you, after that happens, if he then goes on and has a bit of a glaring howling miss, that stays with you. That stays with them. That's in their heads. And that's good for us. So I am all about that kind of thing. They're the marginal gains you want, man. And I look forward to catching that last little sequence somewhere later on and enjoying the hell out of that, because that could be as significant in a way as any of the other good things that happened in terms of proactive stuff that we did on the park, our goals, our progressive play. Because, you have to admit, but you have to imagine that it is going to be us going toe to toe with them. Again, maybe someone will break into it. Maybe Chelsea will be wonderful this year. Who knows? But you'd have to imagine it's likely that this is going to be the race again. And if that's the case, man, marginal gains, I'll take them all every day.
Absolutely. And that's basically it. We have another pre-season game against Strasbourg tomorrow. I'm not going to be covering that one because I imagine it will be toddlers, and even I have a limit. But yeah, on to Saturday lunchtime next week, 12:30 kickoff against Fulham. As I said, on BT Sports, so you get to get back McManaman and Fletch again, I assume. Beautiful times. I think the league kicks off on Friday. Anyone generally interested in the Premier League? Well, that's it for me on pre-season Raw. We're calling this one post-match Raw, but it's Trev and Dave, and I can't remember the other guest, but yeah, that's Trev back in the driving seat next week. Anything you want to plug before we go, Trev?
If you're new to the channel, which you won't be if you're listening live, do get your head around all the various shows that are coming up, because this is where we kick into gear when the season's live. This is where all the really everyone steps up their game a lot. It's not that we take our eye off the ball in the off season, but it's harder to create content that's original. But when you've got match-based stuff, it comes thick and fast, and people do a lot of work. So if you're hearing this in a podcast for the first time, or you're new to the channel, have a look around some of the other stuff on display there from Anfield Index and Anfield Index Pro, and you will not regret it. And I would heartily recommend signing up for us for the season, because I do believe it's going to be a good one.
Absolutely. Get the ad-free content and get to speak with us on Discord and stuff like that. But that's it from us. Back with the full programme of game content next week with previews, etc., and then reviews the week after. But thank you everyone for listening. Goodbye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index, and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.